Greetings, my friends, and welcome. It's the EIB Network and the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Conservative Studies. I am your host, Rush Limbaugh, the most listened to radio talk show in America and the most talked about radio talk show in America and the most talked about host of the most talked about radio talk show in America on Friday.
Live from the Southern Command in sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday!
Fastest 3 hours in media. It is great to have you here, folks. Telephone number is 800-282-2882. And the email address, lrushbo@eibnet.com. The Green Bay Packers have announced a sellout. A couple of TV stations in Milwaukee and Green Bay, Fox affiliates, they have the game, picked up the remaining ducats along with some fans. And so the game will be televised in the Green Bay and the outer market area instead of being blacked out. The forecast for this game, the weather forecast, is been all over the board. Dr. Roy Spencer, our official climatologist here, University of Alabama at Huntsville, is looking at various weather models. They do have weather models for things other than hurricanes, by the way. And he is saying it could be -8 at game time. Game time is 3:40 local time, Central Time, on Sunday afternoon, -8. The forecast high for Green Bay on Sunday is in the -0 ranges. It's not even going to be above 0. Now, the Ice Bowl, remember the Ice Bowl, your Cowboys and the Packers? New Year's Eve, 1967, -14. You know what the second coldest NFL game? 82, I think. Might be 1980. It was the San Diego Chargers at Cincinnati, Riverfront Stadium, -13 degrees. Plus the wind chill. And Dr. Spencer says this, depending on, there's a gigantic Arctic air mass of cold air. And on Monday in Green Bay, going to be even colder than it is on Sunday. And Dr. Spencer says if that air mass moves down even faster than its forecast, then you could be in the -10 to 14 range game time Sunday afternoon. You know, this is, Snerdley says, how these players brace themselves. Well, for one thing, they're all professionals. They're paid. That's number one. They're paid to be out there. But if you've noticed, I'm sure you, even if you're a casual fan, you'll notice that there is a macho aspect, that a lot of these guys go out there sleeveless. And so people have asked me, look, Rush, you know, are they wearing thermal underwear at least cut off at the sleeves of the shoulder under the jersey? Some cases it's just a T-shirt, folks. Now, the quarterbacks are messed. Quarterbacks are decked out, and some of the receivers wear sleeves. But there's a macho tendency here to go out there sleeveless, and you will see that on Sunday. Now, for the guys playing the game, the actual 22 on the field, it isn't cold. The adrenaline and all that, they're running around, it isn't as cold to them as it is when they get to the bench. You'll see the steam come off their heads, sweat it. They sweat. There will be sweat. Players will sweat during that weather. But remember the Giants played a playoff game in Green Bay. The wind chill was -20. I don't know what the actual temperature was. It wasn't anywhere near record, but it was around 0. And the Giants just pummeled Favre. The game went into overtime. And Eli Manning said it was his favorite game of all time. Favorite game. Loved it. Night game. There was chicken soup on the sideline that they had to keep heated so it wouldn't freeze. And this is what they used to, it was broth, to help keep the players warm. But it's brutal. There's no question. The hits hurt more. The ground is, and the Green Bay The ball feels like a rock. There's not much they can do to keep the ball warm. The field in Green Bay is heated, and it could slightly turn mushy if it melts too much. Yeah, true. Yeah, but I know then the heat under the field was installed by Lombardi. I don't know if they still use it actually, but I know it was at one time there, and they may still use it. But it's 3 of the outdoor games are going to be very cold, but none as cold as what's going to happen in Green Bay, and that's the last game on Sunday. Do we have a? Yeah, grab. Let's go to Soundbite 8. There's some soundbite about this. This is this CNN this morning on their newsroom show. The anchorette Frederica Whitfield spoke with the Packers Radio Network anchor Jay Sorgi about the possibility of the game being blacked out. Now, it hasn't been blacked out. They have sold it out ahead of the deadline. So this interview took place before it was sold out, while the blackout was still possible. And Frederica Whitfield said, look, Sunday's game could be the coldest ever for an NFL game, probably in a large part why people are not buying those tickets. Quite the quandary now. What are fans to do, Jay?
They're now down to less than 1,000 tickets that are still unsold for this game. So they still have 6 hours to sell that fewer than 1,000 tickets. I believe they'll probably get it done without much of an issue. But there are many people who normally would be willing to go to a football game. But when you tell them that the wind chills may be 20, 30 below, the temperature should reside around 0, potentially lower, they're not as willing to sit for 4 hours outside and in many cases drive 2 to 3 hours from the Milwaukee area to attend a game.
Come on, this is Green Bay. People do this all the time in Green Bay. That's what has been remarkable here about having so much time go by to sell this game out. Packer fans live for this. This is Packer weather. This is the kind of weather that they think gives them an advantage. People are prepared for this. They live in this in Green Bay. It's not a big deal to go to Limbaugh Field in this kind of weather. Now, there's something else going on here, folks. There's something else going on. 3 of these 4 playoff games not sold out. Well, the Colts have sold out, and the Packers have not. But it took a long time, and I think Cincinnati is still the lone holdout. I don't know if they're going to sell out or not. They probably will. I can't imagine a league actually permitting a playoff game to be blacked out, to do something. But look at how long it's taken. This is new territory for the NFL. This is not something that they are accustomed to. But, I mean, here's this guy, Jay Sorgi. I don't believe Packer fans are getting soft. I don't think that's the weather is not why it took so long to sell this game out. Well, they're not soft. There's no backs on the seats. For most of them, they sit at a bench. There's something else going. Look we just had Christmas. Credit cards are maxed out. The Packers were not expected to make the playoffs. People in the Packers market area figured they were out of it, spent money elsewhere. And so it was a challenge to sell the game out. Now, we move on. Last night, CNN, Situation Room, fill-in host Jim Acosta, speaking with the author Steve Fainaru, who has a book called League of Denial. This is about concussions and in the NFL. And the host of the show, Jim Acosta, said, with all these bowl games that are on TV right now and the playoffs that are coming up this weekend, and they're going to be going for several weeks, the question I have, do fans care about this anymore? Because won't the business side of this sort of drive the NFL to make these changes? And if fans get upset about this, I just wonder if that might be a way to get the NFL to really solve this problem. And for these players, and this is a basic question about concussions. and the violence in the game. Here's the answer.
I do feel like there's a sort of a disconnect in which, the playoffs are upon us now. I myself am watching many hours of football every weekend.
People cheer on those big hits.
And people are cheering on the big hits, and violence is a big part of the game. And so I think the NFL is kind of walking a sort of a tightrope right now where they know that violence and brutality is part of the appeal of football, certainly, and yet they're trying to tell people that the game is safer. And how do you balance that?
Right. So how can we cheer playoff violence? This is the dilemma the NFL has. How can you promote cheering and supporting the violence and the brutality that is the NFL? Mark my word, this is only the beginning. I want to remind you, Bob Ryan, who is one of the most renowned and decorated sports writers in the country, the Boston Globe, wrote a piece toward the end of last year apologizing for his role in making the NFL popular. Apologizing for his role in making popular a game that maims people for life. This was not some young journalist out in the hinterlands trying to get noticed. This is one of the deans, one of the guys been around a long time that a lot of people respect and look up to, apologizing for his role in popularizing a game of such brutality that maims people. And so now, how can the NFL actually, on the one hand, claim a safer game and then want to encourage people to cheer for the violence taking place in the game? Fascinating case study, because the media, which needs this game, the media, which feeds off this game, is leading the charge in what could be fundamental changes in this game to make it something it's never been before. Be right back after this.